Hi guys, and welcome back to SwitchUp. It's that time you've all been waiting for. It's our upcoming games list for next week. And instantly, things aren't looking overly rosy, are they, Glen?
Yeah, last week seemed to look as if we were turning a corner in terms of the quality of games we were receiving. Looks like we've been brought crashing back down to earth this week, I'm afraid.
Having said that, there are a couple of nice ones in here, and we're going to start with Super Dragon Ball Heroes. Right, well I haven't played many fighting games and I haven't played many card games, so I don't think I'm going to be the person to tell you much about this, but it's very expensive, $49.99.
Nice one, that was as informative as ever. No, but to be fair, I haven't played this particular spin-off of Dragon Ball. I've played the fighting games, and I very much enjoy those, especially the most recent Dragon Ball Fighters on the Switch. This looks interesting, but as Mark rightly said, it's very expensive at the same time. I'm sure fans of the series, they will go mad for it.
The next game is a survival top-down game that looks about as interesting as doing your weekly Tesco's shop. There seems to be lots of things you can collect and gather, but as you can see from the movement of the character, it looks a little bit like Michael Jackson is in this one. Oh, it's got co-op. Fantastic.
Do you remember when you bought your Switch? You got it home from the shop, you unpacked it ready to just dive into those gems. You saw the trailer for Breath of the Wild and you thought, this is the future here in my hand. And now we get games like this every week, and it's not a Switch exclusive problem, it's just the way that the industry is going, I suppose, with the influx of indies. But this looks poor, doesn't it? I mean, this looks really poor. The animation is terrible. Alright, I'm sure the gameplay is okay, it's a survival game, but there's better ones on the Switch. There's better indie games like this on the Switch already.
Alright, onwards and upwards, come on. Things can only get better.
Okay, to cleanse the palette after the last one, we have Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy. Obviously, this is a Capcom series which brings together 3 of the games. I've never I've played a little bit, and I know people that have played them and go absolutely mad for them. To be honest, at £29.99 for the 3 games, I might well have a little butchers at these, to be honest.
This is Out There the Alliance, and it is apparently an award-winning space exploration game where you try to survive alone in a distant and unknown part of the galaxy. The key features: 13 spaceships, a dark and challenging. I don't know, what do we make of this one? If it's an award-winning, it must be pretty decent. I've literally never heard of it though, so I don't know what awards it's won. I've heard of the developer though, Raw Fury.
It looks like it could be a text adventure with some puzzle elements thrown in as well. To be honest, it looks quite interesting. It's, I like a bit of Wright on the Eshop, and this is certainly different.
I think you can upgrade your ship and build it up as you go along. The next game is The Mystery of Woolly Mountain from Huey Games. This was initially a Kickstarter game backed by Ron Gilbert, and as soon as I heard that I thought, yeah, this is going to be one that I'm going to want to review. Now, I've played a little bit of it and it does have some of that very familiar humour to it, but not quite enough yet for me to have reviewed it. I do like the art style, I must say, but if it's going to live up to those games, I'm not entirely sure at this stage, if I'm honest.
Next game then is called Boxerline, and it has a 50% off pre-order, which brings the price down to less than £1. It's a puzzle game, nice and simple. It has a nice chilled out soundtrack to it. To be honest, I mean, for the price you're paying for this is one I'd quite happily have on my Switch and boot up every so often for 5 minutes at a time.
I'm not a huge puzzle game fan, Glenn, as you know, but for 89p you can't really go wrong, can you? What was that game that you played from Cubic Games that you really enjoyed? Gridmania. That's a fantastic little puzzler, if you're interested. Is it on sale as well? Nice one. Okay, so the next game we have is called Shadowgate from Abstraction Games. Looks to be a sort of text-based adventure. I do like the art style on this.
Yeah, so Shadowgate is a series that's been going since the 80s, and it's a point-and-click / text-based adventure game. I'll be honest, I know absolutely nothing about this new incarnation, whether this is a remake of the original game or whether this is one of many in the series. I really don't know, and I'm really intrigued by this one. I love the art style. It's got quite a mystique about it. It's got a fairly decent price to it as well. Do you know what? I might pick this one up. I like the look of this. So far, this is my favourite of the week.
Next up, we've got Back to Bed, which was originally released on, I think, iOS and Android. So it has an MC Escher-ness to the visuals, which I really like, but the actual animations aren't too good from what we can see from the trailer. But I do enjoy this style of puzzle game.
Vaporeum describes itself as a grid-based dungeon crawler. It also has a steampunk aesthetic to it as well. It proclaims to be inspired by some of the old school classics of the genre, and if you keep your eyes peeled over the next few days, our review will be up very soon.
Yeah, having had a little bit of a sneak peek into that review, I can tell you it has a really nice story to it, this one. Like Glenn says, there's a bit of mystique to it. It does have a Bioshock aesthetic. I'm not going to lie, it's one of the first things I thought when I saw it. I've not played many grid-based games. I'm quite looking forward to giving this one a go, actually.
Right then, we have the Demon Crystal. According to the blurb on the eShop, this was a game that came out in 1984. The trailer comes with all the classic English you would expect of a game of that era. At $8.99, I don't really know what to make of this one. If it's a game you've played in the past and enjoyed, then, you know, fill your boots, I suppose. But it's not really ringing my bell, I've got to be honest.
What's up next? Way of the Passive Fist. I like the name. When I saw this, I thought it was a beat 'em up, but according to the description, the rhythm-based combat. So is this rhythm-based in the same way as Crypt of the Necrodancer, meaning that you kind of have to move in and out, and you know that when you move, your enemies will move as well?
It's hard to tell. I mean, when we do these videos, we go purely off of the eShop, and this one doesn't have a trailer. As Mark said, it looked at first glance to be a beat 'em up, and it does describe itself as a classic brawler, but from the screenshots it looks to be more of a one-on-one fighter, but with the emphasis being on parrying as opposed to all-out attacking.
Okay, good. The next game is called War Theatre. Looks like a bit of an advanced wars come RPG. I've played a touch of this one. It's not the most visually appealing game ever, but the combat is going to be very familiar to fans of that series. You can inhabit the different buildings that you come into contact with, and that gains you extra troops and abilities.
Obviously it's put itself in competition with something like Wargroove, but to be fair, it's realised that and it's priced itself accordingly by the looks of it as well.
Yeah, just over £8, not bad at all.
Next up then we have Reign's Game of Thrones. Now I think I'm right in saying that Reign's is a series of games and there's already one of them on the Switch, possibly even two. This is a Game of Thrones skinned version of that particular game. It's not a game I know much about at all, but having just watched the trailer, it looks as if you make decisions to try and gain power and end up on the Iron Throne by swiping left or right, and those decisions will have consequences later in the game.
It's very cheaply priced, it's Game of Thrones. People aren't going to need much more than that, are they? Now you guys know that Glen is a real aficionado of old school classic games. He knows so much about those that I just don't have a clue about. And he introduced me last year to a game called Wild Guns Reloaded. This next game is called Bot Vice, and it seems to carry, to my eye at least, many of the same gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, so this is a gallery shooter, as Mark says, very much in the same vein as Wild Guns. One mistake they seem to have made is that this is a single player only experience. It's a shame because just from the look of the screenshots you can see there's clearly space to have two players play. It's screaming out for a second player, but having said all that, it still looks like it could be a lot of fun.
Eren Saver. I knew that keeping you alive was a mistake. I told him.
The next game is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice from Ninja Theory, and it's a prime example of why you do not judge a game's value by the size of the studio. These guys were very careful in how they approach this title, as it deals with a lot of mental health issues. From the footage that we've seen so far of the Switch version from PAX East, it looks absolutely brilliant. It's running smoothly and the visuals seem to defy what the Switch should be capable of.
To smother your furies and banish your fears. But in darkness they came, through stormy black seas they raided these shores. Do you still hear his screams? And now that you're home, he's so far away.
So there we have it then. This is your classic Clint Eastwood week, isn't it? You got some good, some bad and some ugly.
Thanks as always for watching, and as always, thanks to our Patreons who support us every single week, and for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up.
Yeah, thanks as always for watching everyone. Take it easy and happy gaming.
Cheers guys, see ya!